right now, we've got another fabulous individual we're going to have a conversation with. It's time for Faith and Finance with Drew Blazsik. Good morning, Mr. Drew. How are you this morning?
I'm doing pretty good, I would say. How about you guys?
Not bad.
Fabulously well, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds, Dave. I think you're at top of the right there. Fabulous. Well, that's
Fabulously. I'll add some other stuff to it if you want, but yeah, great, fantastic.
Oh, it gets even better. Yeah. So I got some economy news here we could talk about, and then kind of a warning, I think, for families to not to scare it. Like sometimes I scare people with what might be going on economically, but just to prepare.
Yeah.
So here's some interesting things that reported in the Wall Street Journal. The national average of gas, I think, was like $3.88. We saw the largest 20-day gain since at least January 2000 with gas. So the quickest jump within 20 days we have seen 26 years.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy. And for a lot of families who have to travel a lot for work, like I have to drive a little over an hour when I have to go to Heidelberg. I don't have to go there every day. But it's going to get pretty expensive around there.
And it's going to get higher.
I think it's going to get higher. I don't think there's, if you follow the news, you get a lot of, depending on who you listen to, I would say propaganda on both sides. Mm-hmm. And you don't really get the truth. But there are a lot of independent news or reporters out there kind of explain what's going on. And it seems like this isn't going to get corrected anytime soon with this war. It looks like it might go on until the midterms. That's what some are predicting. But one thing we have to prepare for is that 20% of fertilizers, and I'm sure you guys have heard this, but 20% of fertilizers go through that Strait of Hormuz. And it's not just about oil prices. And then in the northern hemisphere, we have planting seasons coming up. So a lot of people are warning. Now, they're not mentioning this on some of the news networks, I think, for fear, but it's something to keep in mind for the listeners is that food prices might skyrocket because it's going to be very limited. Unless I don't see a solution to it. And part of the reason I would say that, I mean, you got to be careful when you hear people talk about it, but when you hear the president talk about he's trying to get other countries involved, why would you ask that if you're in control? And then they said they do not want to get involved. So I think this is something, unless they make an agreement and just end the war, I think this could go on for the summer. But that's something to keep in mind about food, and that's kind of a scary thing. And I don't want to sound like Glenn Beck, where he's talking about preparing just have all your canned goods, but definitely prepare for that because you might see a skyrocket with food.
Glenn Beck, how about this guy? Elon Musk. Have you heard of him?
I think
His
so.
last name sounds like Tusk, but with an M. Musk.
Oh, yeah.
1,000% chance of bankruptcy for the United States of America based on our debt.
Wow.
That's what he said.
Oh,
1,000% chance.
That's better than 100 last time I checked. That's greater than.
I'm just saying that, and it doesn't mean you can't recover. It just means that where we're at right now isn't recoverable in its current trajectory. You can't just keep doing the things we're doing, right, without some correction.
No, not to get deep into this again, but if you look at monetary policy, that typically you have a lot of nations that are trying to go away from the dollar, and it has to do because it's connected to our debt, and that's part of, I think, the reason for these different wars that we are seeing is because you have people fighting over the what's the reserve currency. But I mean, we're talking about, I'm not sure, I haven't looked at it yet, but we're close to $40 trillion in debt, and there's only two ways: we either go bankrupt or we inflate our way out of it, which means prices skyrocket so much. We're all making $1 million a year, right? We're all making all this money, but homes cost millions of dollars. The average house, everything skyrockets, and therefore it makes that $40 trillion look smaller. That's the only way they can do it, but it'll punish all savers. It punishes people that are living on a fixed income, retiree. It really hurts a lot of people. Only people doesn't hurt as much are people that are currently working in the prime of their career, is because they typically will have a pay raise going with inflation. That makes sense.
That matches it, right?
But that's a scary thing. A couple other things in the news. A top U.S. banking regulator is moving to allow crypto companies become banks. And a lot of banks don't like that.
Oh, wow.
And I don't really have an opinion on that right now. I got to look more into it. But some banks are complaining about it, but it could be because of the competition. They don't want competition. But I think personally, my view on crypto is that there's Bitcoin, which I support. A lot of other ones are just a bunch of junk cryptos that people try to do a pump and dump scheme that we have to be very careful because there's no value to it. There's no intrinsic value. There's nothing to it. Not saying Bitcoin really has a lot, but it does have some value that other ones cannot have, that it's not owned by someone. That's one thing, value it does have. But that was in the news.
A Bitcoin bank. Wow.
Economists were polled, and economists do not see a recession unless oil hits 138 barrel. That's they're saying, and if it stays for weeks. So if it hits to that price, which some are projecting it could, if this keeps on going on, they project it. I mean, what happens? I mean, think about it. Like, I'm driving that far. A lot of my money will go towards oil for gas. And what happens? I'm not spending money on the other things I typically do. We would have to cut back a lot of things we're doing, or savings goes down, which is long-term economic growth. So that's something to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
Another one, a Mexican bishop, Cristobal, I don't even want to try to say, is Garcia of I don't even know how to say it, this town he's from, but he warned that communism in Mexico is imminent following election of Claudia Sheinbaum. So that's interesting. They're claiming, one bishop is that there's a lot of things going on in Mexico right now. But so and he has pointed towards certain things like abortion access, promoted LGBTQ related initiatives, whatever the alphabet you're using today.
Yeah, right.
All that stuff, but that's what he's saying. And there's a lot of violence and political issues going on. But
well, that communism that works fine, doesn't it?
yeah, that word. But he does say, even though with all the violence, political issue, he encouraged Catholics to stay hopeful. So to work towards peace. But I think that's one thing we always got to think as Catholics. We want to promote peace. It's good economically. It's good for all, everything with that. But so I don't know what your guys' thoughts on that.
And that's obviously a consistent message from our church. Peace. There are ways to achieve it. There are ways to foster it, and we should be employing all of them.
Right, and look, people are going to argue all kinds of different sides of a war, right? The justification of a war. Thanks be to God, we have a just war teaching in the church, so we have some stuff to compare that to. But when we're talking about it only from an economic point of view, which is what we're talking about here, Drew, there are some driving forces here that have to be paid attention to, and they can't be ignored, and they can't be dismissed, right? Because these are obvious too. And with or without it, it can make a gigantic difference, in particular, to our own economy. Yeah,
I mean, if you look at with war, I mean, we can argue the propaganda is out on both sides. What's crazy about the propaganda, if you have let's say a logical view about it, all of a sudden you hear people spewing out these talking points almost to a T.
Right.
But there's direct and indirect costs. You always have to understand about war. All the indirect costs are gas prices are going up, food prices are going up. The direct cost is costing billions each day. I mean, we're using these weapons, so we're looking at the $40 trillion debt. It's just going to skyrocket from there.
Yeah, the thing to pay attention to, and you bring it up every week, but it is the thing that we have to keep our eye on is the debt. The debt can take us down when interest rates go up even a bit, and it changes everything.
And one thing we understand, prices going up, it does cause people to live in poverty. And the church has always taught extreme poverty is not a way you can live in virtue. You have to have a way where families feel secure about food and shelter.
Good points. Drew Blazsik, Faith and Finance, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You as well.